In a bustling department store in the heart of Los Angeles, a scene unfolded that would leave everyone speechless, changing lives forever. It was a day that began like any other, shoppers casually browsing, the air filled with the hum of conversations and the quiet rustle of shopping bags. But the peaceful atmosphere shattered abruptly, sparking a situation that exposed deep-seated biases and prejudices, highlighting the injustices Black people endure every day. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon at a popular department store in downtown Los Angeles. The aisles were crowded with shoppers taking advantage of the weekend sales. Among them was Maya Johnson, a successful African-American businesswoman in her late 30s. Maya stood out in her elegant, cream-colored blazer, dark jeans, and beige heels. She had a confident aura about her, a poised and composed professional woman on a simple errand, shopping for a few items before an important dinner meeting. As Maya paused at a display of designer handbags, admiring the collection, she had no idea that, across the store, she had caught the attention of someone who had already made dangerous assumptions about her. These eyes belonged to Rebecca Simmons, a middle-aged white woman with a sharp tongue and a tendency for snap judgments. She had noticed Maya a few moments earlier and, without any reason or evidence, decided that she knew what kind of person Maya was. Rebecca watched, her mind already framing a narrative that fit her own prejudices, a narrative that saw Maya not as a successful businesswoman, but as someone she felt she needed to watch. Maya, unaware of Rebecca's scrutiny, continued browsing. She touched a sleek leather purse, admiring its craftsmanship, when suddenly, a loud, shrill voice cut through the store. "Excuse me. Excuse me." Rebecca's voice was unmistakable, sharp enough to turn heads throughout the store. "That woman is trying to steal that bag," she yelled, pointing an accusatory finger straight at Maya. Maya froze, her eyes widening in shock. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. Conversations halted, the busy bustle ceased, and every eye turned to where Rebecca stood, her face flushed with self-righteous anger. Rebecca strode over, her gaze piercing. "I saw you," she continued, her voice filled with indignation. "You were about to walk off with that bag, weren't you? I know you're kind." Maya's heart pounded, not from guilt, but from disbelief, frustration, and anger. "Excuse me," she replied, her voice steady despite the shock. "I wasn't stealing anything. I'm just browsing." Rebecca scoffed, her eyes narrowing further. "Don't play dumb. I saw you eyeing that bag, ready to walk out with it. People like you think you can just take whatever you want, don't you?" By now, a crowd had started to gather. Some shoppers were peering around clothing racks, whispering, their expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. A few store employees stood nearby, exchanging nervous glances but unsure of what to do. Maya took a deep breath, standing tall. "I don't know what you think you saw," she said, her voice calm but filled with frustration, "but I'm just shopping like everyone else. If you have a problem, talk to the store manager." But Rebecca was relentless. "I am," she insisted, her voice rising. "I'm not letting you get away with this." "Security. Security," she called out, her voice echoing through the store. Moments later, a burly security guard appeared, his face a mask of confusion. He had witnessed his share of incidents, but something about this one already felt different. He approached cautiously. "What seems to be the problem here, ma'am?" he asked, looking directly at Rebecca. Rebecca wasted no time. "This woman," she said, pointing at Maya, was trying to steal that handbag. I saw her, clear as day. I demand that you search her." Maya's stomach churned, not from fear, but from a mixture of indignation and sadness. This wasn't just an accusation, it was an attack on her very identity, a reduction of who she was to a harmful stereotype. She clenched her fists, fighting to keep her composure. "I didn't steal anything," she said firmly, looking the security guard in the eyes. "I was looking at the bag, that's all." The guard shifted uncomfortably, looking between Rebecca and Maya, clearly trying to assess the situation. He turned back to Maya. "Ma'am, would you mind if we just verified this? We can look at the security footage, just to be sure." "No." Rebecca snapped, her voice dripping with impatience. "We don't need cameras, I saw her with my own eyes." Maya could barely believe what she was hearing. "You're accusing me without proof," she said, her voice still steady. "You have no right to treat me this way, and I won't tolerate it." It was at that moment that the store manager arrived. A tall, lean man named Mr. Jackson, he took in the scene quickly. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked. Rebecca immediately turned to Mr. Jackson, her expression filled with exaggerated indignation. "This woman was trying to steal a handbag. I want her out of this store immediately." But Mr. Jackson wasn't easily swayed. He could see the tension in Maya's posture, the distress in her eyes. He turned to the security guard. "Let's check the security footage before making any assumptions," he suggested, his voice calm but authoritative. The group walked towards the security room, the tension thick in the air. The footage played on a large screen, showing Maya simply browsing, picking up a handbag to examine it, and then placing it back, nothing even remotely suspicious. The room fell silent, and the color drained from Rebecca's face as the footage laid bare her mistake. But she was going to steal it." Rebecca stammered, her confidence evaporating. Mr. Jackson turned to Rebecca, his expression hardening. "There is no evidence of theft here," he said, his voice carrying a note of finality. "I'm afraid you've made a serious mistake." Maya, who had remained silent during the playback, finally spoke, her voice now filled with the hurt and anger she had been holding back. "No," she said, turning to face Rebecca. "This wasn't a mistake. You made assumptions based on the color of my skin. You saw me and decided that I couldn't possibly just be another shopper." Rebecca, now visibly shaken, tried to backpedal. I didn't mean." "Yes, you did," Maya said, her voice strong and unwavering. "You called me a thief in front of everyone here. You humiliated me because you decided, without proof, that I didn't belong." The gathered crowd, which had grown in size, began murmuring in agreement. Some shoppers pulled out their phones, recording what was quickly becoming a viral moment. Mr. Jackson looked at Rebecca, his face stern. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. Your behavior is unacceptable, and we do not tolerate racial profiling here." Rebecca's face twisted in disbelief. "What? You're kicking me out?" "But she did nothing wrong," Mr. Jackson interrupted. "You're the one who caused a scene based on unfounded accusations." Defeated, Rebecca stormed out of the store, her head lowered, as the crowd around her erupted in applause. It was a rare moment of justice, one that many had been longing to witness. Mr. Jackson turned to Maya, his expression softening. "Miss Johnson," he said, his voice sincere, On behalf of the store, I want to deeply apologize for what you just went through. We take incidents like this very seriously, and we truly appreciate how gracefully you handled the situation. Maya nodded, her emotions still raw. Thank you, she replied. But this isn't just about today. This happens too often, and it needs to stop. The footage from the store spread rapidly across social media, sparking a nationwide conversation about racism, bias, and the importance of accountability. Within hours, hashtags like #JusticeForMaya and #EndRacialProfiling were trending, and local news outlets picked up the story, interviewing Maya about her experience. In the days that followed, protests were held outside the store, calling for stricter policies against racial profiling and discriminatory behavior. Rebecca, meanwhile, found herself facing the consequences of her actions. Her employer, a prominent real estate firm, fired her for violating their code of conduct, and she quickly became the subject of intense public backlash. As for Maya, her life changed in ways she never anticipated. What had begun as a humiliating accusation turned into a platform for change. She began working with civil rights organizations, using her voice to advocate for others who had been wrongfully accused and mistreated because of the color of their skin. A few months after the incident, Maya received a formal letter from the department store's corporate office. Expecting just another apology, she was astonished to find an offer that took her breath away. We have decided to offer you a consulting position within our diversity and inclusion department, the letter read. We believe your voice can help us lead much-needed changes within our stores across the country. The following day, Maya was invited to meet with the store's executive team. In the boardroom, she was greeted by several high-ranking officials, including the CEO, who spoke with sincerity. We want to learn from what happened, he said. That's why we're asking you to help us implement stronger policies, to prevent racial profiling, and to ensure that all of our stores are safe spaces for everyone. Maya paused, taking in the weight of the offer. This was what she had fought for, the opportunity to make a real difference. She nodded, her resolve clear. I'll do it, she said. But only if you're serious about real change. This can't just be a PR stunt. People need to know that this isn't about fixing one bad situation, it's about creating a future where this doesn't happen again. The CEO agreed, outlining plans to give Maya the freedom to shape policies, introduce training programs for employees, and build partnerships with civil rights organizations. In the months that followed, Maya stood on stages, sharing her vision for the future, a future where people would be seen for who they were, not the stereotypes others placed on them. Her work was praised not only within the department store chain but across the retail industry, leading to widespread changes. Maya had turned a moment of humiliation into an opportunity for empowerment and progress. She had ignited a movement that reached beyond the walls of one store. Meanwhile, Rebecca, having faced public scrutiny and the loss of her job, reached out to Maya after a period of reflection. In an emotional meeting, she tearfully apologized for her actions. I didn't realize how much harm I was doing, she said, her voice breaking. I've learned a lot since that day, and I'm truly sorry. Maya, ever the believer in growth and redemption, accepted the apology. We all make mistakes, she said gently. The important thing is to learn from them and do better. Rebecca vowed to educate herself on racial biases and joined local advocacy groups that promoted racial justice. Maya had taken a moment of hatred and turned it into a lifetime of change, not just for herself, but for countless others. The incident that began with an accusation had blossomed into a story of redemption, progress, and the unyielding power of standing up for what is right.